but there's specific classes that you have to take. And I'm going over this because a number of individuals, they'll go out and take courses and they don't look at the curriculum. I know I made that mistake. Now, how I got into construction, I started off in the hospitality industry. And when you start building recipes, you operate the same way in the kitchen as you operate here in the field. Those are two fields, blue collar and professional fields. And the good thing about those two fields is you can establish something, but you got to be good at what you do. You have to know what you're talking about. Now again, what I'm doing, I'm just going up, I'm just going down, I'm just putting the information out there for any individual who's interested in construction. Now, of course, what you're seeing them do, you're seeing them place concrete. Well, correction, you're seeing them place bituminous. We can call it bituminous concrete, but it's asphalt. Now, being an inspector out here, and I'll get to the paperwork aspect later on, what I'm going to show you is how the paperwork is done. Now, before I go on, let me talk about the curriculum here. Because construction management, generally the areas, again, of construction, and they've expanded. I just gave you a breakdown of 3 areas. There was commercial. A breakdown of commercial. Commercial is basically your commercial buildings like the shopping centers, your malls, your I could say your restaurants are part of commercial, but now we can go even a step further. There's your institutions, which that features your prisons, your education systems like schools and colleges, your medical facilities. They're all an institution. Now, when we get into industrial, it's basically warehouses and factories and plants where products are manufactured. So those basics are, again, I've just given you commercial, institutional, and industrial. Now, the next one I want to give you is residential. So when you get more into houses, apartment complexes. These are areas of construction that they're not telling you. When we get into environmental, that's relatively a new one. So when you start to get into your stormwater, your wetlands, your waterways. I mean, remember, the Environmental Act came out back in 1970. Many contractors did not even abide by the environment. They didn't really get into the environment to the 90s. Very important to have clean water. So on projects, and I'm going to show you some environmental factors that we use out here. I call them BMPs, best management practices. And it's very important that you understand environmental, because some of these jobs require permits, NPDES permits, that happens to deal with pollution. You don't want sediment going into water systems. Now, an example of a best management practice is right here on top of this inlet. It's what we call a dandy curb bag. Now, this dandy curb bag is placed on top of this grate so sediment won't get into the system. Because if sediment gets into the system, it's going to go out and impact the waterway. It's all part of the Clean Water Act. Now again, show you another example so you know what I'm talking about. You see it right there. Now, some of the measures that you see on construction projects, you got to look at safety. A lot of individuals don't realize that preventing fatalities is very precious. That's why you have to have OSHA cards. But you have to understand OSHA. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration as a whole. Some of the safety measurements that I see, and I'm checking, make sure they have their caution tape. Now here's something that I gotta see. Gotta let them know they need to put a bag on top of this grate here. Write them up for that. Everything's supposed to be covered out here. And as an inspector, you have to have a keen eye. Now, going on top, this is an example of an inlet box. Now, on the other side of the city, I showed you an example of a manhole box. On the side, you got your structure number. Got to make sure that it's stenciled correctly, where it came from. And then I'm looking at the structure box to make sure that it's not chipped. Now here, I'm gonna have to tell them about this. They're gonna have to smooth this out. Can't be a lot of chipping. Can't be a lot of cracking. Now what I'm doing, I'm running a test with this camera here, but I'm also doing inspection at the same time. Again, checking all of the safety measures. And just from being out here yesterday, you don't have the stamina in this weather, this is not the job for you. Okay, you have all your utilities. Now, something else on the construction site that you guys got to understand too. I'm gonna take you right there. I'm gonna inspect. Going right across the street. Porta potties. This is what we use out here. I'm gonna take you in depth in one. Now, I'm already in it. This one looks pretty much cleaned out. We'll get on the contractor about the porta potties. The porta potties are very important because if they're not cleaned out, then you have the possibility of getting sick. And other than that, using this information to take you to the city. I mean, some interesting places in the city. Very quiet city. Taking you along a sidewalk path that I inspected roughly a month ago. They still have a way to go. Again, when you do this type of work, you have to be ready to be called upon at any time. And this is a job. You can get certifications in this job. Now again, I did see a few violations out here. I will talk to the contractor about that. But I'm walking past the Navarrete Auto Sales. There's some other buildings in play. A couple food trucks here. Walking past the My Hacienda Restaurant and Bar. And I understand they have some, if you're in Frankfort, Indiana, they have some fantastic burritos. I mean, those burritos basically take up a half a plate. A few food trucks. Also, I'm checking all the signage. I'm just checking traffic too. Signage is very important. Again, construction is a field. It's actually a fun field. I like it, and I also like dealing with different materials. Number 8 stone out here.